work has both intrinsic and extrinsic components. There's the paycheck, the title, the recognition, and then there's meaning, belonging, and purpose. And that's where this conversation with Nick goes deep. Nick is a master of Ikigai, not as some trendy concept, but as a lived philosophy. And what I love about this episode is how practical it becomes for anyone working a 9 to 5 right now. Ikigai isn't just about what you're good at, it's about what you value. It's about your role versus your job. And that distinction actually hit me pretty hard. Your job might be what you're paid to do, but your role is how you show up. And when you figure out your role, what Nick calls rollfulness, that's when meaning starts to take shape. Let's roll right in. All right. Welcome to the Work Sucks, But I Like It podcast. Today we have Nicholas Kemp. He's a keynote speaker, coach, and author of Ikigai Con, Feel a Life Worth Living. He is the founder of Ikigai Tribe, which offers Ikigai coach certification. And as a diploma qualified positive psychology coach himself, he helps coaches guide others to discover meaning and purpose through the Japanese lens of Ikigai. He also has another book coming out this year, A Year of Ikigai, Finding Purpose Through Japanese Wisdom, which I'm looking forward to reading. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tony. Pleasure to connect.
No, awesome. Yeah. So Nick and I met on Podmatch. Nick, I got to ask, because when I saw your profile picture, I thought you were Mike Mangini. So there was a double bass drum set behind you. You had the rock on symbol and it said Ikigai. And I'm like, this guy's the man. I got to reach out to him. So where was that photo?
I was very lucky. My Japanese friend got me, I think we were in the fourth row to seeing Sammy Hagar in Japan. And he was sort of doing a Van Halen catalog tour. And yeah, awesome night. So this is a source of Ikigai, music, but also catching up with friends and going to concerts and just having a good time. So that was, really good night.
I love that. No, that's awesome, Nick. So usually the first question I ask Nick guests on the show is, how do you define work? How do you define work today?
This is an interesting question. I think it should be this balance of intrinsic and extrinsic elements. It should be something you're obviously skilled at to some degree. There's value alignment. You have a sense of progress in the work that you do, and you feel you're contributing. But I
Yeah.
think I'm talking about an ideal uh, image of work. For some people, that's not what it is. I have friends who say, I just want to go to work, get paid, and when I go home, I just want to forget about it. Um, but it should be something beyond that. It should be something beyond extrinsic value. It should include intrinsic elements that make you feel your life is moving forward.
No, that's excellent, Nick. So how do you apply this definition to what you do every day?
That's a good question. Well, things like this, going on podcasts with people, doing new things. Really, I think it's really about finding what you're naturally good at, where you have. It's for me. It's really finding not your one life role, but your role for the current time of your life. So we usually go through multiple stages of work as we learn skills, find opportunities. But for me, I've always been entrepreneurial, and I had a pretty bad work experience, and work did suck. So I vowed never to work for someone else ever again. So that meant, okay, I've got to find a solution, and I've got to use my skills, my knowledge, my wisdom in a fairly creative way, not an artistic creative way, but in a fairly creative way, as in, oh, how can I generate income? How can I do something that's aligned to my skill sets and also enjoy it?
No, that's awesome, Nick. So I'm not going to lie, when I was looking up your profile, getting ready for this episode, you had talked about your work with Ikigai, which I really want you to explain to our listeners. I really think it's good for them to hear, especially in the show. So I saw the Venn diagram, and I know you rip on that. So educate myself as well with what Ikigai really is, and not the Western sort of, cultural appropriation that's gone on with it.
I was actually thinking of a new way to explain this. So Ikigai is what makes your life feel worth living. So there's an emphasis on feel. So it's those things that make you feel alive, but it can be before the call, I was saying I've got to get my coffee ready, and I put malt syrup in my coffee, and it's probably like just a comfort, or it's not a coping mechanism, but it's like comfort food. So ikigai can include that. But I think when you don't have ikigai, it's what you long for, or it's who you long to see. It's really something like that, something you wish you could be doing, someone you wish you could be seeing. So there's longing when you don't have it. And there's also this feeling of belonging when you have it. So ikigai is also very social. In the West, as you know, we've turned it into this ambitious life goal. You're trying to achieve almost as a destination. But ikigai is social. It can involve, or it often involves relationships, your role, and that's why you feel it. You feel connection, you feel love, you feel intimacy. So it's a multi-dimensional concept that Japanese seem to have, although they have this word that it articulates the concept of, oh, what makes your life feel worth it? What makes you want to continue to live? And in those moments of your life, yeah, sometimes you really feel it, like going to that concert. But most of the day, we're kind of just going through life. We get up, people pick up their phone, they think, oh, I've got to go to work. And they kind of look forward to the weekend. And maybe that's where ikigai becomes coping mechanisms. Like, oh, if I can just get
Mm.
through to Friday, then I can binge watch that TV show or go out and get drunk. And they're not really healthy ikigai sources. But, some Japanese will tell you my ikigai is cigarettes or it is alcohol. And yeah, I mean, I don't mind going out, catching up with my friends and having a drink. But you can have more than one ikigai. I mean, you do. Hopefully, you have, hundreds. So yeah, it's not one thing, but it's these things you long for when you don't have it, and it's these things that make you really think, "Oh, life is good." I'm feeling good today.
So for a beginner, some of us listeners don't know what ikigai is. What do you recommend for us to learn more about it? Obviously, I guess reading your books, going to your site, but what would you give the audience today as kind of like get you going here with ikigai?
We should probably touch on the etymology of the word. So it's a compound of the verb ikiru, which means to live, and gai, that means value of worth. So we're really talking about the things that uh, give you or your life value, so meaning, purpose, connection. There's a neuroscientist, Ken Moggy, who wrote a book called The Little Book of Ikigai, and he talks about this idea of the joy of little things and being in the here and now. So that's always a good place to start. The joy of little things and being in the here and now. So when I woke up this morning, I noticed it was raining, and it was just kind of comforting. So some people might think, oh, that's negative. So it's the way you value things, and then getting up, a cat meowing and wanting my sneaky cat meowing and wanting food. I thought he'd been fed, so I picked him up. He's purring. Then I give him a second meal, and he still wants more. But just holding him and the purring, and then greeting my wife and giving her a kiss and a hug. So it's these small things, but you have to be in the moment to engage and then feel the whatever that feeling is. So it's really about positive emotion and generating positive emotion through some act. So ikigai is proactive. So you don't wait for it, but you can start small. So Ken Mogi talks about start small. So small things, coffee, hugging someone, engaging with a pet, and it's these little moments that also matter to us. So that's probably where people can start and ask the question, oh, what gives my life some intrinsic worth?
No, that's awesome, Nick. Thank you. So, one of the things we like to talk about in the show is that success is not a matter of good luck, it's good skills. Would you say that ikigai is a skill that you're trying to develop? Is it a mindset, a philosophy? You mentioned not really a coping mechanism. What do you think about that?
It has philosophical elements, but it's also a mindset. I mean, it's not a skill, but you can be more aware to either appreciate what you have in life or be, proactive in producing more ikigai. What I'll share with you was there is this, how when we talk about philosophy and psychology and positive psychology, we often hear this phrase, the fathers of philosophy or the founding fathers of positive psychology. We might cite Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. I'm not sure if
Hmm.
that's the right
Yeah.
way you say his
Well,
name,
yeah.
and
Well, he's
Martin
on one of them.
Seligman. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we never hear the term the mother, the mother of positive
Mm.
psychology. But Japan's pioneer researcher was a woman called Miyako Kamiya, and she wrote a seminal book in the 1960s, which pretty much predates the positive psychology movement. And she worked with lepers, ostracized lepers, on finding out how do they feel ikigai, if at all, in their situation where they were separated from family. They were sterile. Men were sterilized. Women had forced abortions. Sort of horrible conditions. Yet some could. And she basically came up with this definition of you have ikigai sources, and then you have ikigai kan. But then she uncovered what she called 7 ikigai needs. And these are probably more relatable to positive psychology than philosophy, but life satisfaction, change and growth, a bright future, resonance, so you feel you're connected to others and to your environment, a sense of freedom, self-actualization,
Ah,
meaning and value. And then in addition to that, she also spoke or wrote on a sense of purpose. Not purpose, but this emphasis on a sense, a feeling that you have purpose, which often comes from role. So yeah, it's sort of astounding. She was well ahead of her time, and no one knows about her work really outside of Japan. And even in Japan now, she's not that well known. So I try to give voice to her work, and that's why I called my book Ikigai Kan. So it's probably more psychological than philosophical. But yeah, it's like, wow, this is positive psychology, and she's mapped it out for us.
I love that. I'll definitely have to check out her work. And you're so right. It's sort of biased towards these male figures. And when you talked about the needs and you said self actualization, I immediately thought Abraham Maslow, right, with his self actualization. Can you talk more about for the audience what is self actualization and how does it fit with Ikigai?
Yeah, well, this is what I love about Miyako's work. So instead of this mantra of be the best version of yourself that we hear in the West a lot, she defines self actualization as using your unique imagination to create something. The joy of creating, and you actualize yourself with your uniqueness. And we see that. We see that in any artist, any entrepreneur. Somehow they they go inward, they think, they use this creativity, then they make something. And this is why we love certain musicians, or we're inspired by certain leaders or entrepreneurs, or there are artworks that just seem to resonate with us. It's because of someone's uniqueness. It's not because they're the best at it. And so I'm quite sick of this mantra we hear a lot by coaches or authors, like, "Oh, be the best version of yourself."
Mm.
No, be your unique self. Tune into your imagination and see what you can create. And when you do create something unique, whether it's just something like a craft for a friend, or you might make a new recipe, this becomes an emblem of who you are. And yeah, you don't have to be changing the world. You just kind of have to get it out. And for Camilla, she was unique in her book. She thought, "Oh, I'm getting all this life experience and my perspective out on the page, and my book will be unique. No one will write the same book." And that gave her this great sense of satisfaction. Even before she sold it, when she wrote her first draft in her diary, she's like, "Oh, I'm so happy I could die today. I've finally got all this out of me." So be unique, and that's how you self actualize. And act on that uniqueness, act on that unique imagination.
No, that's great, Nick. So one of the things that I find interesting with people that come on the show, I've got sort of this divide that I'm seeing. I want your thoughts on this. We have the entrepreneur and then the 9 to 5 person. So the entrepreneur kind of has this freedom. Can you speak to the 9 to 5 person, how they can incorporate some of the things you just talked about self actualization and that uniqueness coming out in their work?
So I guess there's a few ways to approach this. Um, it's whether or not you want to be entrepreneurial. So if you do, I think first you need to believe that you can do it somehow. There's a way, and then believe in yourself, and then obviously take that risk, and start small. Ken Moggy would say, start small, start to research, start to look at what's possible, and then you begin this journey. And that's how it begins for everyone. You take a risk, you start to investigate what's possible, you use this imagination, and then you start to get these ideas, or maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that. If you want to stay in the 9 to 5, but you want to use your creativity, you're really talking about what's my role rather than what's my job. And there is a term called rollfulness that actually came from a Japanese researcher, uh, a psychologist, and he's become a good friend now. And he actually tied rollfulness to ikigai. Like once you have a meaningful role, life is worth living. And his theory was basically rollfulness is this sense of daily role satisfaction, and there are all these measures for it. But what was interesting to increase role satisfaction involved greeting people, having conversations, and expressing gratitude, which seems very common sense, but it's not always commonplace. So that could be a start. Um, and this could be a message for leaders too. Like, is your workplace an environment where people can greet each other, they can have conversations, and and gratitude is expressed? Then beyond that, in your role, you map out your values and strengths. And so if you want to be, energetic or authentic or patient or caring or creative or methodical, whatever it is, you map it out. So there might be 5 to 10 skill sets, behaviors, values. I guess we could call them qualities that you want or that feel natural for you to express. And then you tie specific behaviors to each of those qualities. And then you're quite aware and you have a map of this is the person I want to be or become in this role. And then you know whether or not you're living up to that or you're violating a value. And yeah, I've done this, as a father. And if I ever, flew off the handle, I knew I'd be violating this value of love or care. It's really funny. We proactively plan our goals, our holidays. We never sit down and objectively think about who do I want to be in this role. And then I think you'd probably need to work with your employer to maybe make this happen. So I guess it's whether or not you can do that. And, is your employer approachable? And you can go in and say, hey, I want to talk about my role here. These are the qualities or skill sets I think I have. How can I maximize them? Can we have a conversation about this? And that might lead to more responsibility, less responsibility, a new position. So it's really about getting clear on who you are, because I think at the end of the day, we either live aligned to our values and strengths or we don't. And if you have some value conflict and it's at work and you're going in, almost every day and it's 8 hours, you're going to feel miserable. You're not going to feel ikigai at all. But when you do, yeah, you feel inspired. You want to go into work. You want to help others. You want to contribute. And I think contribution is also one of these very strong sources of ikigai. Like if we contribute and we feel we have an impact on others, we feel that we matter. And if we feel that we matter, then we have sense of self and purpose and identity and meaning.
Now, that was great, Nick. I love that practical advice for the listeners. So, one thing I want to kind of touch upon there too is the it's hard sometimes for people to do that internal work, to find that map. I love how you called it that. Why does that work suck for people? Why is it hard for people to go inward and to see that map? I guess I'll call potential, if you will.
Or we lack the practice, first of all. We're distracted, very much so now. If I encourage journaling, I'm sure most of your audience are going to roll their eyes and go, "Oh, I don't want to journal." But you need some form of practice where you're engaging basically in an internal conversation with yourself. And journaling is pretty much the only way, unless you're very good at, I I don't know, meditation. Walking's pretty good. Like if you go for a walk and you don't take your phone and don't listen to music, but you think about it, you I mean, I'm making sweeping generalizations, but most people seem to wake up. First thing they touch is their phone.
Hmm.
If they go outside, they're listening to something when they're walking or when they're driving or when they're on the train. You can do this. Just go out one day and don't um, watch your own phone and just see the people around you, and you see all this epidemic of people glued to their screens. So yeah, you've got to have the internal conversation, and it's hard because we don't practice it, and so you've got to start to practice it. So I would really encourage you. You always have a pen and piece of paper, and just don't worry about grammar, spelling, punctuation, how crap your writing looks. I struggled at school. I've always hated writing, yet Ikigai pushed me to write a book. So
Multiple books
yeah,
now.
just start asking questions and beliefs. Is this attitude or belief that I hold true? Um, Kind of prompt yourself. What would make my life feel more worth living? What do I want to do? What am I longing for? Who do I want to be with? How can I use my strengths? Because if you don't do that, then you avoid it. And that's when you have these unhealthy behaviors that are coping mechanisms.
So one thing that I think if you could talk on this point next here. So when I go to the gym, I can see results, right? From a physical standpoint. I'm lifting weights. I know I have goals. When I'm doing this sort of mental exercise, what's the feedback that you tell yourself, tell others that you're, I guess, making improvement, if that's the right word? Or what are your thoughts around that?
I think you have a sense of clarity. Your mind's less monkey, monkey mind. Um, you probably have more optimism because you've gained clarity, and there's a sense of possibility rather than dread or uncertainty, and you're probably closer to accepting yourself, which kind of
Hmm.
this idea of loving or accepting yourself usually triggers the male audience. But there, yeah, going back to Ken Mogi, this Japanese neuroscientist, he has five pillars of ikigai, and in addition to being in the here and now and this, having those small joys, he talks about releasing yourself
Mm.
as a way to accept yourself, and that framing's really helpful. Kind of release yourself from all these mental burdens and expectations you place on yourself, and like who you are, and be less critical. Yeah, you'll be less critical of yourself, and when you're less critical of yourself, you're then less critical of others. And then things start to happen. People find you more approachable or attractive, and you notice more engagement because you're not judging people. You're accepting people because yeah, you've accepted yourself to some degree. So that's how I think you'll notice, and you'll notice opportunity starts knocking more.
No, that's awesome, Nick. So tell us about your new book coming out, A Year of Ikigai. I really want to hear more about that. So I teach yoga. I love, learning about Eastern philosophy, this ways of mindset thinking within the East. So walk us through this book that is coming out this year, I take it? Is there a date
It
for it
is.
or okay,
So
beautiful.
it's coming out March.
Awesome.
And this is what I'm talking about. I got this opportunity. It's actually with a publisher. So my previous book was self-published, and this came through someone on LinkedIn who I didn't really know. We'd only had a few exchanges with, but she obviously thought, oh, she was approached to write the book, and she said, "Oh no, I'm not the person to do this. Nick is." And so this is what I mean when you start to connect with people, opportunity arrives. So this was like a different challenge. It was like, oh, we want you to write a book on Ikigai, but we want it to be one of those books where it's a daily sort of page, so less than 80 to 100 words. And we want 365 of those. And I thought, okay, that makes sense. Ikigai is multidimensional and multifaceted. But then I soon discovered, this is very challenging to write like this. It's very hard to write succinctly on something that's either, yeah, philosophical or cultural, and then end it with a prompt or a suggestion, and then move on to another idea. So it does take the reader intentionally through, I guess, a year of Ikigai. So you are meant to read it from cover to cover. And I mean, I love Japan, and it's a big part of my life. I've lived there for 10 years. I've been going
Mm.
back and forth for 30. My wife's Japanese. So it's always been really important. It's culturally accurate, evidence based, and a voice for Japanese. And in the book, I managed to collect 50 Ikigai perspectives or Ikigai sources of Japanese. So there's that. And then I would kind of explain their sources a little bit in more depth on the next entry, and I might highlight, oh, this source clearly for this person is social, and they're probably benefiting with all these emotions of connection and intimacy, and this is a core aspect of ikigai, etc., etc. So it was a real challenge, and I got to about 300 pages, and I thought, I'm running out of ideas. So I had to go deeper into the culture and look at other words, and I found it very challenging and stressful, actually.
Mhm.
But it's done. I'm happy with it, and yeah, I mean, as I said, I barely scraped through school. I always had this negative association to writing, and here I am, and I'm going to be a published author soon. So that's what Ikigai can drive you to do, and yeah, this whole writing style, I found it really challenging, but I thought, okay, well, this is meaningful. I've been given this wonderful opportunity. So, yeah, each day just serves as a reminder that life is worth living, and there's an abundance of ikigai out there. And I hope readers, find one or two entries that really, inspire them.
No, I love that, Nick. So when it comes available, where's a good place for listeners of the show to find your book or more information about your work?
Sure. I mean, hopefully it'll be in bookstores or airports. There's always Amazon, so A Year of Ikigai, and then just go to ikigaitribe.com, and you'll probably see the book on the homepage. And I think, yeah, actually from this month, it's February now over here in Australia, so I'll be proactively promoting it on social,
Sorry, when's
which
that date coming out again?
it should
Yeah,
be
but
March
should be
17th.
March. March, beautiful.
Yeah,
Awesome.
March 17th. Yeah.
Well, sounds good. I look forward to reading that book, Nick. Thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Tony, for having me. It's been a moment of Ikigai. Thank you.
So I certainly learned a lot here from Ikigai being this popular Venn diagram in the West. And Ikigai isn't necessarily a skill. It's awareness. It's being in the moment. It's proactive. It's starting small. When you don't have Ikigai, you feel it. It's what you long for. It's that sense of something missing. But when you do have it, there's belonging. And Nick makes an interesting point. We can have multiple ikigai. It's not just one thing, it evolves actually over time. The episode really broke down something also important in my own life: self actualization. Not just trying to be the best version of yourself, whatever that means, but using your unique imagination to create something only you can create. That's how you self actualize, your uniqueness. You don't have to change the world, but you do have to get it out. Nick frames journaling in a powerful way. We don't practice our internal conversation enough. We don't slow down enough to hear ourselves think. And the truth is, yeah, we need to practice more of this internal dialogue. We don't sit with ourselves, we don't journal, and we don't go for walks without technology. We don't create space to hear our own thoughts. That's a skill. And you guessed it, the skill for success today is to assess where your journaling is at. Pick up that pen and set a timer for 15 minutes, like Kristen Swan reminded us back in episode 25. And if you dropped off the journaling, well, that's okay. Life happens, right? So let's pick it back up, get back into the groove. Remember, success isn't good luck, it's good skills practiced consistently. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.